Governor Torres and Lieutenant Governor Palacios representative, Mr. Kevin Bautista, the appointee, Mr. Sixto K. Zuma, elected officials, dignitaries, and members of the general public. Before we proceed forward with this public hearing, let me first introduce the members of this committee. To my right side of the aisle is the floor leader of the Senate, Senator Vinny Sablan from the 3rd Senatorial District, Saipan. And to my left side of the aisle is the Vice President of the Senate, Senator Justo Quiliguat from the 3rd Senatorial District, Saipan. And I'm the chairman of this committee, Senator Francisco Q. Cruz from the 2nd Senatorial District, Tinian. I would also like to announce a couple of things in the interest of informational purposes regarding code of conduct during this public hearing. Today, the members of this committee are conducting a public hearing on the appointment of Mr. Sixto K. Zuma to serve as the Secretary of the Department of Public Land. The public will be invited to make comments as to whether you support or oppose the appointee before us this morning. We value your input. However, any comments beyond the facts of the appointee or comments that are not directly related with this public hearing will not be entertained, and such comment will be removed from the record. At the same time, please observe minimal noises in disrupting this hearing process. And please turn your electronic to a silent mode. Thank you. This is now beginning. This public hearing is now in session. Today is July 12, 2021 at approximately 9:10 in the morning here in the Senate chamber, Capitol Hill, Saipan. This is a public hearing regarding the appointment of Mr. Sixto K. Zuma by Governor Ralph D. Longoria Torres and Arno I. Palacios to serve as the Secretary of the Department of Public Land pursuant to Article 3, Section 14 of the NMI Constitution and 1 CMC, Section 2802. Ms. Jolene Duenas Tagobel is our clerk for this hearing. Mr. John Santos and Bender Lai will be our sergeant at arms, and Mr. Joe Mudis will be our legal counsel and will all serve accordingly for this hearing. At this time, I would like to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Senator Francisco P. Cruz,
Here.
Senator Victor B. Huco, Senator Carl R. Neighbor, Senator Justo Quiliguat, Senator Vinny Sablan. Mr. Chairman, 3 members are present, 2 members are absent.
Thank you, Jolene. With 3 members present, we have the number to proceed with this hearing. However, the Vice Chairman of this committee, Senator Victor Huco, will be joining us shortly. Senator Carl Nevers is excused for this public hearing. At this time, do I hear a motion to adopt our agenda?
Motion to adopt today's meeting agenda, Mr. Chairman. Second.
There's a motion and was seconded. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. At this time, I'd like to ask the Southern Land to recess with the appointee and the governor's rep into the chamber. And before you do the introduction of the governor's appointee, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Buenas tardes, Tito, and good morning, Chairman Cruz, the honorable members of this body, Senator Quiliguat, Senator Sablan, the people in the gallery, and our community here on Saipan. For the record, my name is Kevin Bautista, Press Secretary for the Office of the Governor. On behalf of Governor Ralph de Leon Guerrero Torres and Lieutenant Governor Arnold Indalecio Palacios, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and testify before you today. I'm here to introduce the Governor and Lieutenant Governor's nominee for Secretary of Public Lands, Mr. Sixto K. Zuma, a former Senator, Secretary of Commerce, and most recently the Director for the CMI Procurement Technical Assistance Center. He was appointed by Governor Torres in May of 2021. In addition to the formal positions I mentioned, Mr. Zuma has been at the forefront of many important initiatives and decisions regarding our Commonwealth, in which he has held chairmanships for the Commonwealth Lottery Commission, the Northern Mariana Island Retirement Fund, the Commonwealth Development Authority, and the Northern Marianas Housing Corporation. Mr. Zuma brings years of public and private sector experience to this important position within our government, and he intends to make the CMI Department of Public Lands a more efficient and responsive agency that continues to put the interests of NMDs, our people of Northern Marianas descent, at the very forefront. Of all the things that keep us grounded, both literally and symbolically, is our connection with the land we call our own. Our public lands are so much more than just the 14 islands of the CMI. From them, we develop our culture, our identity, and our way of life. And it is a shared duty to protect them now for ourselves and towards the future for the next generations. Mr. Eagi is committed to assisting the Governor and Lieutenant Governor achieve this important goal. Governor Torres and Lieutenant Governor Palacios place their full trust and confidence in Mr. Eagi as the Commonwealth Secretary of Public Lands. I know he stands ready to answer your questions as well as share his plans for the future. His legislative experience as a senator, his executive leadership in important positions throughout the Commonwealth, his work ethic, and his ability to work well with others will make DPL run smoothly and the Commonwealth more efficient. Thank you to Zeus Masi Jangilisel for the opportunity to introduce him to this August body. And we also thank you, Chairman Cruz, Senator Sablan, Senator Kibwa, for your leadership in providing an opportunity for our people in all 3 senatorial districts to listen and participate in your deliberation of critical positions for our Commonwealth. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Batista, for the introduction. And before I recognize the appointee, I would like to ask you, sir, again to please stand so that the clerk can answer you.
Please raise your right hand. Mr. Sixto K. Eagi, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I want to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eagi or Acting Secretary, I know that this is the 3rd public hearing that we have to accommodate the general public to participate, and also as well as I know that you have submitted all the required documents and you have presented testimony in the 1st and 2nd senatorial district. But if you have more to present to this committee, you have the floor, but please begin by stating your name for the record.
Undat na Zeus Masi Chairman, Guahu Han Itay Sixto Kaipariki Somar, currently Acting Secretary for the Department of Public Lands. Sa Finena Chairman Malaguzube Naamju Undangklu na Zeus Masi for giving me the opportunity. I know that this committee is very busy, and for entertaining the nomination of our governor for myself to represent public lands. So I want to thank you, Chairman, and the members of this committee, Senator Vini, and Senator Hustu, Undangklu na Zeus Masi, and Loki Perez of the staff of the Bureau for actually taking this time. Unggan magawin esta mensiona hasa mensahe gizaluta sa tinian por intention no para kay Azudazi in public lands. So I don't really have much to say, Senator, except to thank you and also to thank our Honorable Ralph Governor and Lieutenant Governor Arnold for giving me and appointing me to and nominating me to be a part of this committee. I am here today ready to answer any questions. I know that you've asked a lot of questions on Laura and Tinian, and I've written those down, and I will be presenting them to you immediately within the near future if your decision for my nomination is highly favorable. And now, Undangklu na Zeus Masi. Kiro Faisal, half day.
Zeus Masi, Acting Secretary Eagi. At this time, I'd like to recognize those entities that are invited to participate. First on the list, Mayor Apatan. Anyone from the office of Mayor Apatan that is here and wishes to testify on behalf of Mayor Apatan? No one? Let the record reflect that there's no one from the office of Mayor Apatan. Members of Saipan Municipal Council? Anyone from the Municipal Council of the 3rd Senatorial District, Saipan? No one? let the record reflect that there's no one from the Municipal Council of the Third Senatorial District, Saipan. And before I open the floor again for the general public to come in to participate, whether you're in favor or not in favor, you're welcome to come forward to deliver your testimony. But again, before you come forward, again, I would like to remind everyone that any comments that are not directly related with this public hearing will not be entertained, and such comment will be removed from the record. At this time, the floor is open for the general public that are here in the gallery that wishes to come forward and deliver testimony. Again, whether you're in support or not in support, you're welcome to come forward. And before you proceed, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and member of this committee. My name is Patricia S. Rosa. I am here to deliver an unsolicited testimony from Mr. Sixto K. Somar as Secretary of the Department of Public Lands. I am a person of Northern Marianas descent and very mindful of NMD issues. Given that the Department of Public Lands is a constitutionally established office, and given that the Constitution has defined who is Northern Marianas descent, I am very proud that for once, a person of a descendant of Farafaloach is finally an appointee of this department. Currently, I am the Director of the Planning Division of the Department of Public Lands. Over the past 6 weeks, I have had the opportunity to work closely with Acting Secretary Somar and witnessed his superb ability in analyzing critical issues of concerns, his attention to details, but most importantly, his ability to build consensus among the heads of the different divisions of the Department of Public Lands. During the first week at DPL, I saw him focused on regulations and statutes concerning and governing the department. At all times, he engages with the heads of the divisions. Going into his 6th week, I could already see his decisiveness on what he envisions would be more beneficial for a more efficient performance and accountability for the department. His diverse background has demonstrated his ability to adapt to take on his new role. I have a passion for the protection of all NMD assets and rights. I have witnessed Mr. Somar's respect for the office, and to me, this office needs someone who respects the rights and will protect the assets of the NMDs as the guardian of these lands. I am in full support of this nominee, and I pray that this committee will do the same. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today.
Thank you, Director Rosa. I know that we have invited permitting departments and agencies to also participate. Let me first call the Department of Community Culture Affairs, Secretary Joseph P. Dillenberg. I'm also that you participate in the other opinion, but I ask again that you participate this morning. So, may I call you up and deliver testimony, or the members will be later on. The members will be just to deliver testimony. That later on when we start asking questions, that's when we call up members of those agencies. On after we allow the members of the general public to testify. Yes, I apologize. Is it open for public comment?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of this committee. Thank you for providing us an opportunity to submit testimony this morning on the appointment of Mr. Sixto Somar to DPL Secretary. I am Richard Villagomez, and I am here in support of his appointment to this position. I have known Mr. Gizomar for many years and have worked with him before. Looking at his career path, he is a true public servant, having devoted much time in government service over the years in various roles requiring leadership and technical skills. These roles include membership in various government boards, Secretary of Commerce, and also as a senator. I have known Mr. Gizomar to be honest, hardworking, and proactive towards accomplishing goals and objectives. He has the unique ability of assessing situations from various points of views, taking into consideration relevant factors in order to make the most informed decisions. He also has a knack for seeking ways to improve things, whether it is streamlining processes or workflows. Also, he possesses excellent communication skills, negotiating skills, interpersonal skills. He's very personable and is generally optimistic. These qualities are essential in any position of great responsibility, such as the Secretary of Department of Public Lands. I believe Mr. Gizomar meets or exceeds the requirements and is uniquely suited to address the many issues and responsibilities encompassed by the position of Secretary of Department of Public Lands. I therefore request this honorable committee support the confirmation of Mr. Gizomar's appointment as DPL Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members.
Thank you, sir. Still open for public comment.
Good morning, Chairman Cruz and this August committee. My name is Gregorio Q. Castro, President of Pacific Engineering Group, known as PEC. And I would like to take this opportunity to openly support the confirmation of Mr. Sixto Eagi Somar appointment to be the next Department of Public Lands Secretary of the CNMI. As the former Secretary and Deputy Secretary of the CNMI Department of Commerce and was elected Senator for the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands, I have personally also known him as the Director of the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, known as PTAC, where he provides excellent support to small businesses like our company. And with all his leadership role, I am confident that he is the most qualified candidate for the position of the DPL Secretary. Mr. Eagi Somar helped a lot of government agencies, the CNMI citizens, and as well private businesses. He has demonstrated himself to be an outstanding leader with incredible initiative and strong dedication in helping out the community. Noticing Mr. Eagi Somar's solid leadership as the Director, Senator, and also Acting Secretary, please allow him the opportunity to be the DPL Secretary, a position he held for the past few weeks or month, and a long-term Secretary of Commerce. Mr. Eagi Somar leads by example, in which his enthusiasm and dedication were found both inspiring and motivating, not only by myself, but by many people in the CNMI. And as I mentioned again, especially in the business community. Knowing him, he does not hesitate to challenge anyone for the interest of the public. He has a strong family values and ethical foundation. Mr. Eagi Somar exhibits many of the qualities that are essential for the DPL Secretary, our Secretary's office. I highly support the confidence of the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor for the appointment of Mr. Sixto Eagi Somar for the DPL Secretary's position. And I hope that this August committee will consider his appointment. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and August Committee.
Thank you, sir. Still open for public comment. Anyone else?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee. For the record, my name is Angel Demapan. I'm a resident of Dandan, Saipan. And I'm here to support the nomination of Governor Torres and Lieutenant Governor Palacios for former Senator Sixto K. Gisomar to serve as Secretary of the Department of Public Lands. As a person of the land, as an indigenous member of our community, I feel it is my obligation to come here and offer my support for someone, a nominee, to lead the department charged with the disposition of our primary resource as people of the land, and that is our public lands. Mr. Gisomar is a longtime friend of mine, a longtime colleague in the executive branch, and I also had the opportunity to serve in the 20th legislature at the same time that he was serving in the Senate. Mr. Gisomar is also my mentor for the Department of Interior's Executive Leadership Development Program. And so obviously the nominee is someone that I trust, someone that I believe in someone that I can confide in life and in professional career, and most of all for the dispositions of public land as mandated by our Constitution and our laws and regulations. And with that said, Mr. Chairman, I offer my utmost support and seek your most favorable consideration.
Thank you, sir. Still open for public comment. If no one else, they are to deliver testimony. Before you proceed, sir, please stay in for the record. Thank you.
Robin Faisal from the village of Katman. I'm here in support of the Honorable Governor Ralph Torres and his Honorable Lieutenant Governor Palacios nomination and selection of Mr. Sixto K. Gisomar to be the Secretary of the Department of Public Land. In addition also, I humbly request this august body to consider his nomination and expedite his nomination and confirmation as soon as possible. With that, Hafade Tiro Kilisto Situsmasi.
Situsmasi, sir. Anyone else? Outside the gallery, anybody? Before I entertain those entities that are requested to participate. No one else? At this time, public comment is now closed. Now I would like to call upon the Secretary of Community and Cultural Affairs, Secretary Joseph P. Guerrero, and the Historical Preservation State Officer Rita Chong. So the reason why we call the agencies to participate because of public land that they have this public programs in regards to homestead and agricultural homestead and other public matters that involve other agencies, permitting agencies. Is the reason why we invite permitting agencies to participate, so that the committee can raise questions and concerns in regards to public land. So this time we'd like to entertain the members of this committee to raise questions or concern in regards to the Department of Intercultural Affairs that relates to public land responsibility, duties and responsibility. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge or recognize the floor leader of the Senate, Senator Eagi Sablon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everybody present here. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I don't have any questions for the Secretary of DCCA. I know that he was present with us in Tinian, and there was lengthy conversations, and we did pose some questions there. His testimony in Tinian covered a lot of the aspects of DCCA and public lands. So at this time, I have no questions for the Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, floor leader. Now we'd like to recognize the Vice President of the Senate, Senator Justo Kirigua.
Mr. Chairman, before I start, can we call in the Secretary of Public Works and Zoning? I have some issues regarding relating to public land with Public Works and Zoning.
Request is to invite all of them at the same time. No objection?
No objection.
Anyone from the Bureau of Environmental and Coastal Policy that is here? No one from BC here? From the Department of Land and Natural Resources? Anyone here? And before I give back or yield back to the Vice President of the Senate, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Vice Chairman of this committee, Senator Victor Hoku from the 1st Senatorial District Board. Thank you, sir, for joining us. At this time, I yield back to Vice President Kirigua.
This is Marcia, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to first welcome the nominee, Mr. Eagi, and the agencies, Department of Agencies are requested to be present this morning. And good morning to the people in our audience and also to our viewers at home, the public. And Mr. Chairman, this department is one of the most, if not the most important departments when addressing, protecting the only assets provided in our Constitution to our Northern Marianas descent, which is the public lands. I would like to raise some issues that have been brought to the legislature. Almost every legislature and the nominee is aware of this. And now that the other agencies are here, we can hear them. And in the past, we only were hearing one agency. However, it's always been pointed to other agencies, the issues that remain outstanding, that our Northern Marianas descent who have been bringing these issues to us here in the Senate, particularly those that are applying for homesteading programs and also those that are waiting for land compensations, those that own properties right on the designated roads, public roads. So if I may, Mr. Chairman, there's one, there is public land has a tremendous responsibility provided by not only the Constitution, but also Public Law 15, this 2. And when these laws are brought up, it's always not clear. Answers are not really clear to us over here. So this opportunity for Mr. Isomar as a nominee is welcome. I am confident that he will take these issues and work with the other agencies so that we can assist the people who are in our Northern Marianas descent, and also the general public who have access to these properties as public service provided. Now, first is the issue of land compensation. We have brought this in the past, and there are, and public land is saying it is not their fault, it is not their responsibilities in some areas. It is the responsibility of public works, it is the responsibility of TLNR, and it is the responsibility of the other agencies. So in relations to land compensation, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask who is the first agency that will certify any public land that is on the table for land compensation. We have our own people who has been waiting for decades, and their properties were and are still being used by the public. However, they still waiting, and these original owners were already not here. So now it's the heirs, the great grands that are claiming, and I'm still hearing that they have not been compensated. So I would like to ask, who actually is the first initiator in terms of the certification for public lands that were taken by the government from the owners of these NMDs? How is the process in terms of accomplishing the compensation to these landowners?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this body for inviting DPW in regards to permitting. First of all, I want to thank again that we, DPW, initiated the first letter of the land compensation, whereby we will issue a letter and then we'll send it up to a copy to DPO and of course to the governor, and then a time reviewed by the Attorney General. And what some of the main reason that is happening of the delay is that there is a different time of taking during those time of taking of the property. And those are the issues that are being reviewed by the Attorney General. But of course, DPW initiated the letter first to the governor, and of course, be reviewed by the Attorney General.
So how fast is this? That issue of review by the Attorney General has been on the table for since I came to the Senate in the 19th Senate, and I'm almost 8 years here, and that's what I've been hearing, that it's on the Attorney General. I mean, we asked the Attorney General, said no, it's there's incomplete documents submitted, there's errors submitted, and those kind of things. So where is public lands role here in terms of correcting these errors if public works submits certification and then the Attorney General says that we cannot certify this because of incomplete information or it's wrong information, where does public land come in?
Susmasi, Honorable Chairman, Vice President. From the public lands perspective, but first let me just generalize it quickly. One, when it comes to land compensation or land exchange, DPL is the final authority with respect to my signature or the Secretary of Public Lands to give up the land, either by compensation or exchange. As far as the initiation of when and what land shall we exchange or pay back, it's highly dependent upon the decision making of DPW for work related to roads access. We have HPO and also, I believe, also Fish and Wildlife or any other environmental agencies. So when they initiate those, and mind you, Senator, I'm still, my main goal at the end of the day, hopefully to this body, would be to give you a very good chart, a chart on the processes of how things are accepted and or processed so we can see the overall picture. So initially, depending on these agencies' intention to acquire or to take, it's also dependent, as mentioned by DPW, on the date of taking. Currently, I do have issues currently on the table with the AG questioning the time of taking. And I will be responding to the AG later on this issue, but it's related to your question. So depending on that, then it comes to DPO for processing in our claims division. Our claims division will go through a checklist that they have. I'm still reviewing this checklist to make sure that there is no loophole or gaps whereby the AG would come back to us and say, I can't complete this because there's a missing document or verification of owners. And as I think DPW is trying to allude to, a lot of the owners of these lands are stuck in estates whereby there is no probates on these estates. So it takes time. So DPO, upon completion of such checklist, will provide an offer to the landowner. And upon acceptance of the landowner, then we will process a settlement agreement. That settlement agreement will be routed to finance. Finance will certify those funds, depending on availability of funds that has been appropriated by this body, by the legislature. If there's a certain category of availability of funds for whatever those categories are, finance will certify. Once it's certified, it comes back to my office. We reprocess the settlement agreement and send it to the AG for final disposition. Once the AG signs, then there will be a settlement to the landlords, to the owners, whether land exchange or compensation. There are other, Senator, I just wanted to say that I like to, and as Ms. Pat was bringing it up, my main goal is to have these things started out per se, so that you'll be able to really understand these processes as well as the public. People who are undergoing land exchanges or compensations, they get to see where they are in these issues.
Yes, it's mostly a mistake. So with that response, I would ask the nominee to please take the initiative, because these individuals are coming to public land. They're not going to public works or zoning or DLNR or DCCA. They come to public lands. So I recommend to the nominee that you take the initiative to initiate actions so that these claims will be expedited. And if it comes to probate, some of these might not know that the original heirs have died and they need probate. And I was trying to help these since the last two legislatures, these heirs, and they finally did their probate. And after the probate was done, the administrator that was appointed by the court died. So it's going to go again to, from the beginning. But I think initiation from public lands will be greatly helpful to these people and these landowners. And if, because one of the issues is money for probate. So, Mr. Sommer, if your department can assist these landowners who really don't have the money to probate their properties through the Micronesian Legal Services, if they can get any help from Micronesian Legal Services, I think they will really appreciate that, so that their properties can be expedited. And also, I have concerns in terms of homesteading programs, where in the past, village agricultural homestead is issued, and this is, I think, in Rhoda, where I heard this years back, were issued, and when they were issued, they cannot occupy the property because Fish and Wildlife came in and said there are endangered birds in those properties. So according to Public Law 15-2, this should have been all taken care before public land issues homesteading program to the individuals. And I know that sometimes when election years come, we try to bring these issues to the people and say you have homesteading, agriculture, village coming, so you will be getting it, and this is where you're going to get it. And then later on, Fish and Wildlife came in and said, no, you cannot, because there are endangered birds there. So I recommend that DPL take the initiative and have this all done before announcing that there are available public land for homesteading program. And I know Public Law 15-2 has detailed the responsibilities of public land in terms of the land use plan for DPL to carry out, and it even mentioned here that zoning should be involved when planning for homesteading programs. So, and all this Public Law 15-2 listed in numerical orders some of the things that public land should take into consideration when coming up with plans for public land. So I recommend Mr. Sommer that you look into this and see if public lands have already this in place, and are they enforcing, because it's very upsetting for homesteaders to be told that you're going to get your agricultural homestead in these areas, and when the time to start, Fish and Wildlife comes in and say, no, we have endangered species there. And so please take a look at those things, and I will come back to more detailed questions, and I will give the others an opportunity as we go around. And my last comments before I yield back to the floor is the Northern Islands homesteading program. I know, Mr. Sommer, you are aware of this because we even worked hard on this amendment to the homesteading programs in the Northern Islands. And I strongly recommend that there's a plan be done in place, because I'm hearing that there are people that will be applying for homesteading programs in the Northern Islands, and they are not the priority in the law. And if we allow this with us following the priority in the law, there will be no land for these Northern Islands people. So I recommend that you see if Public Land has developed already a guidelines or regulations in terms of how to issue homesteading programs in the Northern Islands in accordance with the law, because the law sets who are priorities to get homesteading lots in the Northern Islands. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back the floor.
Thank you, Vice President. At this time, I'd like to recognize the Vice Chairman of this committee, Senator Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all the permitting agencies and secretaries that are here. Just to follow up some of the issue that the Vice President, Senator Kirugwa, mentioned regarding the land compensation issue. I just want to find out from the acting secretary regarding what size of property, or DPL can answer this also. What size of property that requires DPL for monetary acquisition, and as well as what size of property requiring land exchanges?
Thank you very much, former President and Senator Cook. I believe the threshold is 300 square meters. Anything above that, you would be qualified for land exchange and or land compensation. Anything above that.
Okay, so on the land exchanges, what is the ratio if it's going to be a land exchange?
I think we follow the appraisal, Senator. When I say I think, it's because I need to look at the actual language, but it's an appraised value. So you come in and I receive a request from an agency that there will be an exchange. First thing is we ask the client, as you were stating, whether you want an exchange or compensation. Then we will get an appraised value of that property, and that will be the value to purchase the land.
No, I'm not saying purchase, I mean exchange. What ratio of land exchange will take place if the landowner would opt for exchanging their property and not to avail for monetary compensation?
If you don't mind, Press, I will call, if you don't mind, I can call Pat. But the question is, because I know I'm reviewing this question myself with the divisions trying to do an analysis to compare whether which is better one-to-one ratio, land area by area. And my question is that we're going in there with respect to the value of a property, which one will be more beneficial to the public lands to take. So unless there's difference.
You mean provide that
value to value according to this map. Value to value.
And the reason why I think that the line of questioning, Mr. Acting Secretary, is the fact that way back in the past, there are landowners that play hardball, for not for monetary, but for land exchange. and the ratio that they were asking, or once upon a time, have been transacted is sometimes they put out an offer of 3-4 to 1. So I just want to make sure that DPL will stick to the land value and what the appraisal. And people, being a private landowner, sometimes they do not believe on what their land was appraised, for what amount. I think the sentimental value of their land is more precious to them than to land exchange, and maybe perhaps that's why they are proposing, in order for them to give consent for land exchange, is that they raise up the ratio amount. If, for example, there is a compelling public interest certified by DPL for public purpose, then if my land is really valuable, then I feel that I will bargain the size of property versus the land to be exchanged as a, what do you call this, a sentimental value for my family. And I hope that we do not go back to that mentality to exchange 3-4 to 1. And if we're going to stick on the appraised value, so let's have that stick on glue with DPL consideration. Now, I do have some concern regarding declaration of public interest declared by the Secretary of Public Works. And everything is being agreed upon, but upon the, most especially if there is partial of the property that I own is being declared as a wetland. And we did the process of the exchange for public purpose, but after everything is said and done, it went to the Office of the Attorney General and was denied. I wonder if the Department of Public Works have had how many experiences of those land that are being negotiated and agreed upon, and then at the end of the day, the landowner felt that they are being denied of the either monetary compensation or land exchange. And if the Secretary of Public Works can just inform the committee as to how many of that have been experienced by the department.
Thank you, Vice. Honestly, for the last 7 years that I was Secretary of DPW, to experience wetland in regards to land again, and most of the issue that we have is when we're done initiating for land compensation or whatever, there's always a stop where it says that the time of taking is one of the issues that has always been rejected by the Attorney General.
So when you make mention about the time of taking, is the value of the property?
The time of the taking, Vice, is that time of taking is different from what the in the past whereby my predecessors submitted, and I experienced twice where they have to reject it because there's two time of taking, and that one is being rejected by the Attorney General.
So when that thing happened, being rejected by the Attorney General, any resolution to ensure that the declaration of your public interest is accorded?
We did certainly whatever they asked us to, but again, it all depends on their review and final disposition.
Okay. Another note, there is a, I don't know if this has been discussed with other members, but if it is, then I just want to avoid to find out this very important issue regarding properties that are not really clear as to who owns. I'm referring it to all the Catholic mission property that is now being built, like churches and other areas. Is there anything that can resolve this issue?
Vice Chairman, I believe I don't understand the question.
The Catholic mission have had all properties sitting on government land, and it is not clear whether who owns these properties.
Catholic missions, you're talking about the church?
Yes, sir.
And your question on that is?
For example, the churches that is built in San Roque all the way to Chalacanoa.
Yes, Mr. President, on that issue, if you're talking about whether the Archdiocese of Chalacanoa owns properties that the churches are currently on, if I may request, I'd like to give you a written response to this, because I like to put my mind around it, because the answers are, and please do not take my answers as being true or factual, because I still need to back them up. But based on my current discussion from directors on the properties, as I've asked them already to look into the matter, there are questions of whether the properties were purchased by Archdiocese Guam, and then with respect to the timeline they were purchased, whether pre-constitution, pre-covenant, and whether those properties were actually changed into private properties once they were transmitted to the church, and whether those properties now are all private properties of all the churches, with the exception of San Vicente Church as a land exchange between Rota Ortinian to that land where San Vicente Church is now. So there's answers I've received from the directors, and I'd like to put it in writing so that I can have it a correct presentation and not create any doubts or gaps in my presentation to you. But generally speaking, those properties now are currently on private lands. Generally,
all these properties are sitting on private land?
Currently, and as far as when, and thankfully we have directors in our department that have been around for a long time and were with Public Works at the same time for a long time, so they understood the transactions that occurred in the past. And so generally they are currently on public lands. Whether they are or legally transmitted or not, that is a question that I'm not able to answer, but I'd like to give you where they are position-wise.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Acting Secretary. I think this is a very sensitive and very important issue that we must clear the simple. It will be very unfair for the diocese of Chalacanoa, or whoever owns the Catholic mission here, controlling all the properties. It will be very unfair that the property will be needed to, the Catholic Church in Guam. So whether it's a private property from the get-go or public property, I think we need to clear this area as a private citizen put up his concern and is very concerned about this. So we just don't sit on it and see and clear all this property, who really owns it.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Our public lands domain is at public lands. If that property has been changed into private land, we will have no direct access to investigating. However, as I stated, I will formalize a written response to this committee on that matter.
Okay, thank you, Acting Secretary. And this goes also to the property in Rota, because it is not very clear where the Rota Catholic Church owns the property, where the President Brown House and the other adjoining property, whether it's a shared property or it's a Catholic mission property. And the reason why I need to clear this, because we cannot get any federal or local funds to appropriate to build any facility if it is the property of the church. So maybe you can provide us that also with that information in the days ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. If I may note, that this same question was brought to me when I was a senator. My response was, I do not have all the resources to respond to this question accordingly, but now that I'm at public lands, I will respond to this question within my capacity as Secretary of that Department, if confirmed.
Yeah, I think the individual that wrote this have some good issues also, but I disagree of him informing the committee not to affirm your nomination because there is no response directly from you. I think it is the duty of the Department of Public Land to provide this historical event of what he's trying to find out. And with that, like he's telling the committee that not to confirm you because of you not following up his concern to DPL. But I think he should have also barred to the main department where he wants to finance it. It's just like us today questioning this, and you don't have the answer at the time, during the request come to you. But when you are confirmed, I think this deserves merit to be looked into for the benefit of the people of the Commonwealth. So I hope that you consider this concern of his to look into now that you're going to be there at public land.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Senator. First week, first day, I landed on DPO as acting. That's the first question that I asked the directors who was in this division to look into.
Thank you, acting. And again, back on the line of, I just want to add more questions on Senator or the Vice President question as to what agency initiate first on all this permitting for homestead or any development. Is it Public Works or who among the permitting agency that will initiate first the action for DPL to proceed with its program?
Mr. President, former President, you're talking about if I'm going to have a homestead, who would be the first regulatory agency?
Either homestead or land exchanges to facilitate all the requirements for DPL to process the necessary paperwork, whether it can be or cannot be.
If I may, when it comes to right-of-ways or pumping basins, that will be DPW who would be the one that the client will be working on, because based on DPW's access or whatever they do with Public Works, they will encounter those lands whereby they may need the land for public use. If it's wetland, endangered species, it will be DLNR, and if it's historical, it will be HPO. Now, with respect to the question of the homesteads access grazing, for Homestead Village, our director, which is Ms. Pat Rosa, we normally, because we do not have the current resources and capacity, we will provide this through ITB's awards, and who will be handling the cleaning of that area, homestead land area, for example, as going on here on Saipan, to be the one to engage the major siting permit that is necessary. And from there, we will go whether we get an approval from CRM or we end up having to do with the federal agencies for endangered species that is not within the capacity of the local jurisdiction.
And the reason why I asked that, just to follow up the same concern as I did ask in Kenya, I believe. Any development project or program that DPL is going to do moving forward, I guess that, or I think that Fish and Wildlife will be considered also working alongside with the first responder of that request for clearance, because it seems to the committee finding that, historical preservation, BCQ, they will finish the review in 5 working days. But it takes more than 21 days for Fish and Wildlife to clear permitting after these two important agencies did their part. So maybe we can look into it and consider also Fish and Wildlife to be working collaboratively along the two agencies that are very necessary to move forward with the project, with whatever project DPR have. And that's why I asked the permitting agencies that I think they need to, I believe they need to have a head of all this permitting agency to ensure that no delay of such after listening to other agencies that did their part in matter of days. Unlike Fish and Wildlife, that it sometimes took them forever to clear what has been cleared by the other agencies. So I just want to recommend that if all these permitting agency will meet and discuss that issue, because it's prolonging the development. Do you think so, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, I agree, Senator. I do agree. And, right now, I know that Senator JQ brought up that question about people we give the homestead to, but then they need to go to these regulatory agencies by themselves and assume the cost. So, yeah, it's hopeful that and I believe they're part of the one-stop, they're part of it. And, for example, I saw my Ascona permit, and my Ascona permit, I got the clearance from CRM. From the one stop, and maybe many more pages behind that permit is all these conditional requirements that has to do with Fish and Wildlife and the federal agencies, and that alone would takes up so much time that we were not able to actually finish before the mating period of these species on Ascono. So now we have to pause and find ways to mitigate it to start again by October 1st. And the governor has assured us of $80+ million for all the infrastructures that former secretary requested our governor to support. So under the ARPA, we just had a meeting 2 days ago, and we were given the green light that the $80 to $88 million is ready for public lands to move forward. So I truly hope that we find ways to mitigate ourselves within these one-stop clearances, along with the federal agency permits that are quasi outside of this, so we can speed this up. So although the Marian former secretary said we need to start tomorrow, unfortunately we'll be in planning phase, and we're hoping that all the regulatory agencies plus the staff she's hiring on board can come together. And I know we're not alone. There's almost $500 million there, so we're just a portion of that, 10% of that. But I agree, Senator.
Yeah, now is the timeline, Mr. Acting Secretary, and all the agencies to come together, as we have the opportunity for development, not only for capital projects for the government, but as well for the individual beneficiary of this funding. And the more we delay the process, time is running out. We have timetable to expand this, to spend this funding. And I hope that every permitting agency will come together and expedite this. And that's the only way that we can see our people to really have access to this funding, if they are eligible, to help them move forward with their livelihood. Not only their livelihood, but the infrastructure of our government. Well, I'll yield for now, Mr. Chairman, and give the other members also the opportunity to air their concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President.
This is Masi, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, or Acting Secretary, because how many secretaries are here? Acting Secretary. I would like to continue on with the the line of questioning and comments from the Vice Chairman, Hoku. Public Law 15-2. I would like to really read this out, because maybe these problems will not continue to occur if this is followed. I understand that DPO finally came up with the land use plan, but I am not so sure whether DPO has a comprehensive land use plan. And this is mandated by Public Law 15-2, and I would like to read in part. It says the Secretary shall come up with a 5-year plan. This plan may be amended as appropriate and shall be upgraded every 5 years. Shall be consistent with comprehensive land use plans and zoning laws approved for each senatorial district, and shall be developed in consultation, coordination, and cooperation with other permitting, development, zoning, and land use and land management agencies. These plans shall have the following objectives and components: coordinate use and development of public lands with the plans, programs, and requirements of other Commonwealth agencies. Identify all public lands and priority of uses. Identify and reserve suitable lands for homesteads. Identify and reserve lands that contain resources critical to the Commonwealth, such as, but not limited to, springs suitable for producing potable water, groundwater aquifers that need protection, and potential sites of municipal quarries, current and future sites for government buildings, habitat mitigation areas, wetlands, prime public recreation areas, potential school sites, potential hospital sites, and potential transportation corridors. Identify and reserve lands that should be made available to private developers for generation of revenue. Identify lands that should be made available for exchange in order to improve the manageability and value of the public land holdings and other purposes such as the acquisition of rights of way. And identify lands that need special handling due to the presence of hazardous materials, dangerous structures, or other special circumstances. Encompass all the lands of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Public lands transferred to other government agencies that are not in compliance with the specific non-commercial use approved by the Department of Public Lands will revert back to the authority of the department. This is itemized in public law that public land should take into consideration. And this that we're talking about, and the Vice Chairman was talking about land exchanges, should all be in the plan. All of these lands, public lands that we have, they should be already identified where the land exchanges are supposed to happen. So I would like to ask, I know Mr. La Cruz was not probably in zoning for past 5 years, no?
Just 1 year.
1 year. So I am not so sure whether you know if zoning participate in coming up with the comprehensive plan that the DPO is mandated Public Law 5-2 to come.
When I assumed my capacity at zoning, I did receive a copy of the comprehensive plan that was done by public lands. And when I was reading it, I do know that there was a consultation that was done between public lands and zoning through a contractor. I believe there was I believe it was bidded out, and there was a third party that did the comprehensive plan, and there was consultation that happened with zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary of DPW. It also mentions in the law on acquisition of right of ways. Were you involved in the development of the comprehensive public land use?
No, I was not.
Okay, Mr. I don't know whether Secretary Guerrero is the right person to ask. Just you also with TCCA, and also and if you know, you can answer. Do you know if TCCA participated in, or was consulted when this plan was being formulated, like historical preservation, because it mentions here that you should also be consulted, because you are involved, especially on the identified lands for developers.
I've been at HBO for a couple of years, and I'm not aware that HBO was consulted and represented.
Okay, thank you. And also, I'm not so sure whether, because PSS is not here, whether it mentions about schools. And I remember that there are instances where homestays are open and they identify the sites for schools, and some of the sites are not really suitable for schools. Like, for example, one is at Matuis. It's supposed to be an elementary school there, but it's not a suitable area for schools. So and also since the Eleanor is not here, I wonder if the Eleanor also was consulted in terms of recreation areas. So and also hospital sites. So, Mr. Secretary, I think I should go back to you and please check the comprehensive plan that we have, and if it needs to be amended, please have the agencies that are mentioned here to be involved in, so that we will not have all these problems in the future where the developers will come and will want to lease this property. That property should have been identified on the plan as for developers. And Fish and Wildlife should have already checked if they're involved. The historic preservation should have been checked if that's a suitable area for developers. So I again would like to ask you to please look into that and see if these things these things need to be updated and involve the agency, so we will not continue to face these issues of the time of taking for right of ways, suitable sites for schools, parks and recreation, homesteading program, the zoning issues. So please take if there's a comprehensive plan and they were not involved, I would suggest that you initiate the communication and ask them to be part of the review of what we have now, and see if they can identify areas that were identified and are not suitable for what they're identified for.
Mr. Vice President, if I may, I am looking at the March 2019 Comprehensive Public Land Use Plan update. It has here a GIS map and also supposedly the comprehensive plan for all the islands in the Sinamai. And page 16, based on your reading of those questions, page 16 attempts to answer or respond to the Public Law 15-2 and the provisions set out in it. And so I know that this is almost $1 million project, and so I will do my best to provide my brain some algorithms to be able to decipher this within my capacity. But I assure you, those are very good questions. I will look into this plan and see what's the best methodology or process to try and update it. Because I did discuss this with the planning division that we need to set aside funding for the update of the comprehensive plan. And yes, they were looking that it's not time made, which in 5 years. And I mentioned it's about 2 to 3 more years, which means that public land needs to save up money to be able to come up with at least close to $1 million just to redo this. But I think it's a good time, as you are questioning, for us to look into, as you stated, we need not wait for the 5 years. I think we can just put a budget together, present it to this August body, and see if we'll be able to get the support to try and update it accordingly to make sure that we have all the answers that you are looking for, that it responds to it. So I'm highly favorable and I will do my best to execute it. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Secretary. Since you already touched the budget, I would like to also remind you of Public Law 15-2, because I've been in the Senate for already 6, 7 years, and I have yet to see this in Public Law 15-2. It mandates the Department of Public Land to submit each year a proposed annual budget for the next fiscal year in accord with the budgeting and planning procedures applicable to all departments of the executive branch. Within its proposed budget, the department shall itemize all personnel, travel, and other expenses for the fiscal year in question. The sums required to be expended during the fiscal year with respect to the leasing responsibilities and the homesteading programs, sums required to be held in reserve for approved homesteads or other department programs in the next 2 fiscal years. A detailed statement of all other departments' assets, liabilities, revenues, and expenditures, and the estimated sum to be transferred at the end of the fiscal year to Marianas Public Land Trust. So this is a mandate of the 15-2. Thank you for bringing up a budget. And there are times when we hear that, at least I would hear that public land did not do this and that because they didn't have enough budget. But the law says, and even the Constitution says, you have to prepare your own budget. You don't prepare your budget. The governor does not prepare your budget. It is you that prepare your budget based on your responsibilities and the activities to carry out. So this is required in your budget, and please look into it, and I am confident that you follow the law when it comes to preparing the budget for DPL, so that the legislature will not be blamed, and people do not really understand this. A lot of the public don't understand. They thought that we propose your budget and approve your budget, and then when DPL says we do not have enough budget for the through the years of homesteading program, that's when we delayed it. They blame us that we didn't give enough, and the people are mad at us because they're waiting for the homestead, but the surveying of the lots were delayed because there's no money. You were here, and also sometimes we talk about being blamed for not our fault, but that's part of the game here in the legislature. But please, I ask that you take a look at that, and and maybe on the next fiscal year, probably. Budget is already been submitted, and, or perhaps if you need to amend it, so, take into consideration that. And this is one of the things that Public Land Trust is always after MPOT is, where's the leftover? And you're supposed to show the budget, the estimated sum to be transferred, but it's not shown. So if this is all clear, maybe MPOT will not continue to say, we're going to sue you for the balance of the money that you're supposed to transfer. So again, I ask that you take a look into that, because there's so much things to be done with public land, and I think we have managed our public lands for decades, so I think we should be better this time. We manage this, and there's we just enacted a bill relative to the advisory board of DPL, and we make some changes, and it is really interesting that the public of 15 the Stu mentioned this, but I don't know how public land, how well public land follows the mandate of Public Bill 15 the Stu, and I'm going to read in part. It says here that the department may not transfer an interest in less than 5 hectares of public land for use for commercial purposes to a holder of an interest in contiguous or adjoining public land if the combination of the interest in public land would be more than 5 hectares without recommendation by the advisory board to the legislature and approval of the legislation and joint session. We've been involved in this, but I've never seen the advisory board. I thought the advisory board were just, there for nothing, but it's in here. It has some authority. And we were working on that bill. I think the law says that the secretary will call the meeting when the secretary feels like calling the meeting. So I'm not so sure whether the advisory board recommends all these things or not, because it doesn't show actually when it's submitted. The board recommends or has some say-so in the land leases.
Vice Chairman Ungan, they are involved in the processings and they do hold monthly meetings with the secretary. Me coming on board as an acting secretary capacity questioned their authorization, question meaning not in a negative way, but in looking into what exactly can they say or do and what power I have or they have. But yes, they've, one of the items that it's funny you're talking about is I looked at that and I saw it, that they have to come up to the body for recommendation, legislature. But according to Pat, because she's involved with this advisory board on a monthly basis, they do give their approval, whether they are actually the ones coming up or they concur to the secretary. Concurrence from the advisory board to the secretary.
Okay, thank you. Please make sure that they are. I have talked to a few and they were complaining that the secretary don't listen to the recommendations.
Vice Chair, I wanted to understand my power once I become secretary. What is the power of the secretary with respect to the advisory board? gaps within 15-2 that needs to be clarified. Because this advisory board, what is their capacity, how are they organized, it's not very clear. But whether the secretary calls the meeting or not, for your information, I've already had a meeting with them, and I'm already scheduling another one every month. So I'm not sure about where this issue is that the secretary is not calling the meeting. And in the law, it does state that I am to put an agenda on that agenda for the meeting to call the meeting. Right now, whether I have an agenda or not, I'm calling the meeting on a monthly basis, and my subject line is always with respect to land use plan or any other. Last time I met with them, I told them that I would like to enhance this agenda to put in a section here for the chairman's report, chairman of that committee, and also report from the secretary. That way, there is an ongoing communication between the body and the secretary.
Thank you, Acting Secretary. Please do that so that they can feel that their presence during the meeting is not the waste of their time and waste of money for DPO. But the key words here, their authority is the recommendation shall not, says here, without recommendation by the advisory board to the legislature. We didn't say in the law to the secretary and the secretary to the legislature. It says with our recommendation with the advisory board to the legislature. So please take note of that and make sure that proper meetings when needed are called and adhere to the recommendation. These are individuals that represent their senatorial district, and by their presence, I'm pretty sure that they communicated to DPL the sentiments of their people and their leaders. Mr. Chairman, I will yield back to the other members.
Thank you. Vice President recognized Vice Chairman of Hoku.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Again, regarding the advisory board, well, maybe to answer the concern of Senator Kirua of this advisory not coming up to the legislature for any recommendation is that I've been also made aware that if the secretary will not call any meeting for the advisory board to meet, then there will be no advisory board meeting. I don't know how true is that. But I'm very glad, Mr. Acting Secretary, that with or without any agenda, you will be calling the advisory board to create a future agenda for their function in order for them to adhere to Public Law 15-2. And that's one of the issues that both Rodan Tinian and a member of SICAN advisory board at times come to my attention that unless the Secretary of Department of Public Land calls a meeting that they can meet. And this has been burdensome for Rodan Tinian, where they have to get a flight and, and I guess, I don't know how they deal with their transportation, whether they pay their own or DPO pay their own for their comings to attend the advisory board meeting called by the secretary. But nonetheless, it's good that you're looking into that to ensure that the advisory board created by 15-2 works with DPL. And another one that I like to, Mr. Chairman, before we leave the permitting agencies, I'd like to recognize and go also to join us, see Mr. Jesse Colossus to be up here with us. I have some questions that I'd like to inquire to ensure that we are on the same page with the permitting agencies and DPO action plan forthcoming. Thank you, Mr. Palacios, for showing up, and this is very important also for you to join us along with the permitting agencies. Down in Rhoda, we were really focusing on the permitting agency to come together in an anticipation of all the opportunities that of funding that is under your responsibility, most specifically the CDBG-DR. And we're wondering if it's correct that new homesteaders can avail for this loan to build their house when DPL and other agency clear their application. Can you provide the committee with some response on that?
Thank you, Senator Holcook, for that question. And yes, any homestead permit is allowed or can apply for a CDBG-DR new construction loan to to build a unit at their respective homestead lots. So it is allowed to develop homestead lots on a per lot basis.
That's thank you, and that's very clear now to all of us. And how long would this funding be made available within the CNMI for returning if there is some to be returned?
So right now I believe we have almost 3,500 individuals that have visited our office, and out of the 3,500, I think we have issued about maybe 12 to 1,500 applications, the actual applications. And right now, there's about 600 applications that have been submitted. And out of the 600, so far we have approved about 130 applications. Most of the applications that are coming in are more for new construction or a home buyer. Just like you mentioned, Senator Holcook, about homesteads. Most of our applicants don't have property. So that's the reason why we have a huge percentage of applicants that are looking for property, or they want to try to build their property and their homestead lots. So it's about 70% of the applicants that are coming in they don't have property.
So what's the time frame to hold onto this money without any expiration date or what?
Yes, the expiration date for the CDBG-DR funding is October 24, 2026.
So this is the right forum now that we all meet with the permitting agencies, DPL, so that we can expedite those opportunities for our people awaiting to hopefully get some loans from this program. And it's good that we come together here to understand the merit and the time frame of this funding that can be made available. And it's not forever, but we have a limited timetable. And I hope that, with us meeting together here, we can expedite this opportunity to our people as well as to DPL issuing this homestead program. And I just want to clarify that whether they are eligible homesteaders, new homesteaders will be eligible to acquire some loan from this program. And it's good to hear that, yes, they can.
Yes, Senator Holcook, and if I may add, for, like I mentioned earlier, for individual homestead lots, they are eligible. But when it comes to infrastructure funding for like new homestead lots, federal money cannot be used for that because of the the restriction of the ownership of the property. So that's the one that they raised to us. You know, we asked them the question, and then they said it's a violation of the Fair Housing Act.
So simply there's no opportunity for infrastructure developments such as for water and sewer? Not counting power, but sewer and water. Capital project within the homestead area is not authorized as well?
If the homestead subdivision is open to non-NMDs, then money can be used for infrastructure, power, water, sewer.
So that's very restrictive, no?
Yes, sir.
And we cannot issue homestead to non-NMD.
Right.
That's the problem that we have, you know.
Yes.
But other than for our indigenous individual that can avail for homestead, they are qualified to get the loan package, right?
They are qualified to get the loan package because the CDBGDR program, as well as our other loan programs, federal loan programs, are made available to everyone. So that's why they are allowed to apply for the loan, their housing on that lot, homestead lot.
Okay, thank you, Noah, Mr. Palacios. That's we just want to affirm of why we are here together with all the permitting agencies. So if there is really a need or a benefit for our new homesteader that can avail for this is the time to come together and help one another to ensure the expedition of homestead processing and agency clearance, so that you can also proceed with expediting their request for whatever amount they anticipate to build their new homes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Again, back to the acting secretary. Where are we with Asgono Homestead subdivision?
Currently, we are in the permitting process to finalize the partitioning of the lots so that we can do the lottery. And at the same time, while that is happening, we are finalizing with the former secretary's IRP section office under the governor to finalize the infrastructure funding that should be providing us to initiate the water and the water construction of the infrastructure. The funding is not qualified for power, so we will be doing water and sewer, but that area already has a current sewer line. So possibly just an expansion of that sewer line to accommodate any of those homestead lots that are outside of reach of that sewer line. So we are moving forward. We are mitigating our way with the regulatory agencies, mainly now the federal agency, to make sure we get our biology report together through the help of the contractors to secure it so that we can be ready by October 1st for people to access or the construction to begin.
Okay, that's very good information, Secretary, and I hope that you really follow those up once you are sitting on your season effect in your department, no?
Yes, Senator, and this is right now with respect to, just wanted to elaborate a little bit with respect to that funding that's becoming available. Low-hanging fruit-wise, the Asgono will be moving forward and will be coordinating, should be holding a meeting with DPW and CUC to coordinate those the infrastructure planning to get it moving. That's a low-hanging fruit. We also have Tinian, phase 3, the Marco Heights section. We can proceed forward with the water on that. So we have that. Rhoda is a bit, I'll be upfront, it's a bit complicated at the moment because it's a big land area with respect to the infrastructure need for the water and finalizing where we're going to have the homesteaders on Rhoda. So I'm saying that generally because I'm not very clear yet on the plan of what we need to do for Rhoda and those homesteaders. But right now, Saipan is close to ready. Tinian will be ready, and then Rhoda is still in that concept phase.
Thank you. So while we're still in that concept phase, can I ask DPL to really clear the pathway for these homesteaders that are being given already land for village homestead. And to date, whatever number they pick, they have not seen one. So I like even in the absence of access road, at least they can open a track at least to understand where is their lot number. Because they just lottery the lot, but none of them, not one of them knows where is this lot. And this happened back in 2006, I believe, 2007.
Vice Chairman, we're talking about Laura.
Yes, sir.
I have to apologize to those people, my sincere apology to them for whatever that RDO director back then did. It's unfortunate that that director never finished the job, but right now with this department under the former secretary and with me now as acting and under our governor, we're doing our best to right the issues that these people had to go through for whatever circumstance. FINAFA, I believe we're good at that. As I just got a green light from our planning director back behind me, it should be good. So in moving forward, and we are very blessed because without this infrastructure funding that we're getting now, as assured to us by our governor that we have priority now on this 80 million plus funding. Without this, we will have challenges with these regulatory agencies and moving individuals in there. Similarly, I know that Senator JQ brought up about who is supposed to clear the land, and I believe, DPO may shoot me here, but I believe DPO was doing its best to assign people the public lands or homestead to get in without having the funding to really take care of all the regulatory issues. And it was just doing a general regulatory clearance so that they can partition. But when it comes to a homesteader to clean their land by themselves, they have to get these permits, which kind of delayed them in entering the land. But right now with this funding, we hope to be able to, and I believe former Secretary Marion did mention, since she's taking care of this program now, she's fully aware of what goes on in public land, that they will try and assist us with the regulatory aspects. And I truly hope I'm not wrong, that we'd be able to clear the environmental. And as you must understand, I may be upfront on this, to clear a big land area on environmental clearance with these regulatory agencies, it means a lot more time. There are a lot more resources involved. And that's why they were just doing piecemeals per se. But we hope that we have funding to be able to clear these lands for FINAFA and LORA, and also Tinian and Saipan, so that these people can go in once we partition ROTA up, especially, they can actually get in if we assist them. And I hope we'll be able to assist them on the regulatory clearance, so that not only, I know you mentioned they've pulled the lands, they have yet to see it. I hope we are able to partition them or whatever, and show them the lands and clear the regulatory for them and provide them the road access, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Acting Secretary. I'm specifically talking about that area, Penapa. It has been already 9 years or even more. And not to mention that Dugue Homestead as well is difficult for homesteaders who have already picked up lot to build their housing there. So that's another concern that we need to look into another area to phase out Dugue Homestead and work on another more suitable homestead for our people to have easier access in building their foundation, building foundation. And my last question here before you, Mr. Chairman, is I just want to find it out after the abolishment of Marinas Public Land Corporation and it's been transferred back to Department of Public Land. Does public land still have the authority to give fee simple to government agencies or corporation? At the request of the agency or corporation?
I don't know about actually giving fee simple, but we do designate, Vice Chair.
So can Department of Public Land look on corporation that have fee simple title at this point in time?
I believe you're talking about, for example, CPA, no?
Yes, sir.
CPA does have that. We do have partnership with agencies that we've designated lands to them, like DLNR for use and NMC. But as far as actually deeding them outside of that era, I can look into it and find out if DPO did any or whether DPO can still do it.
Yes, I would like to find that out. Otherwise, if one agency is permitted to be given, why would the other agency are not? For example, CUC. So we like to find out whether we're consistent with our laws or regulations. And we like to take a note on that as well.
Thank you, Press. That is a question that I've encountered last week because we do have agencies that are interested in that. But I think currently, as acting and maybe my predecessor as well, we have not deeded any property to anybody. It's only a designation for use so that when they're done or they abandon it, we can take it back for the public for the NMD's use.
Okay, so I understand only Commonwealth Ports Authority are the only autonomous agency that have been given a substantial fee simple holding of land.
And according to my Little Birdie director and board of PSS as well.
As well as PSS.
Some for PSS.
Okay, so we like to really find out what's the status of other agencies or corporations inquiring for fee simple to avail for more funding to develop their own program. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield for now.
Thank you, Vice. Again, to permitted agency, thank you for being here. This is very important public hearing, as was mentioned, in regards to homestead and agriculture. Back in Tinian, mostly all the permitting agencies are stated that they are working collaboratively with the DPL to expedite the process of permit, so that will not delay the service of the general public. And I know that zoning is not here because there's no zoning law in Tinian, and I'm happy that you're here because zoning, there's some issues that require zoning to be here in regards to properties. And also for NMHC, Corporate Director Zeus Mosque for being here. It is very important, we've mentioned in Tinian in regards to the homestead programs that can possibly avail to the CDP-GDR. And I should mention earlier that they're qualified to apply, but the question there is for them to be to be able to to be approved on that. And I know that there's some guidelines that you have to follow. And the issue here in regards to DPO homestead program, the homesteaders that have sent the infrastructure of water and BCQ, the administrator I mentioned in Tinian there, that they are working with DPO collaboratively to make sure that they allow other ways of addressing the EPA requirement in regards to water infrastructure. And you mentioned earlier about, or Vice Chairman posed question in regards to whether or not that funding can be allowed for infrastructure, and you mentioned that it's not. That's correct. What about, for example, if homesteaders on a new homestead have applied for that grant and can, I know you mentioned sewer is not allowed. What about their own septic tank that can be allowable within the loan to be, and perhaps maybe they can, it's not a and water catchment for that matter, that can be allowed or not.
Yes, Chairman Cruz, that is allowed because it's within their homestead lot. And the maximum loan amount we are giving now is $250,000. So the 250 covers the construction of the house and also for the water line, sewer line, it's either a seepage pit or leaching field or septic tank. So the budget is 250,000, and also the connection from the power to the house. So anything within the boundaries of the homestead lot, 250,000 is the loan amount. However, if there's data out there or other quotations from contractors that state that 250 is not enough, then we can, on a case-by-case basis, go beyond that 250,000. And we put that in our regulations because construction costs are much higher on Tinian and Rhoda. So the 250 can be waived for Tinian and Rhoda, or maybe even Saipan, depending on the location.
Thank you, Corporate Director, and that's good to hear. There's some homesteaders that be calling our office to to find ways to assist them, and I think that this is one way of trying to see how the permitting agencies and DPO can work together and for them to be able to adapt to that program. I know you mentioned about the expiration for this program is about 6 years, right? So I know some regulation, it takes time to, especially federal side. We understand that they mentioned earlier in Tinian that it's up to 21 days. But I mentioned also that if other permitting agency can expedite with delaying the permit, some waiting for, especially we're expecting for Fish and Wildlife Department to be here so that we can hear as to why stating it that long for them to to assist. We're all here together to help one another to to help our community and find ways not to violate the law, but mitigate how we can able to assist them. So I'm thankful for the agency, permitting agency that are here. When we call to make sure that we also assist the PO if there's a problem with their side, because as what Vice President mentioned, I was looking also into the law that under homestead that before even planning for the program, that the homestead program has to meet with the regulatory agency to be able to identify what are the problems before even subdividing so that we will be able to have problems like this. I've been mentioning this in the past that if there should be an opportunity for people and absent those authority or they're not authorized because of EPA requirements. We have to try and mitigate and see what we can do to help. Just like meeting with BCQ that they can allow to address the water infrastructure issue. I know that there is some new money coming in from ARPA, but whichever is is faster, so that we will not lose that 6 years time. Whichever is faster, let's try and help one another to see what we can do to help this people. And there's about 300 plus homestead in the island. I know there's a lot also in Rhoda. I'm not sure how many here in Saipan, but let's try and help them homesteaders with the permitting agency and DPO that we can, they can be able to avail to the program. And as we hear from the corporate director that, they are qualified to apply, but I know that absent the requirement by EPA, even though you want to approve them, and EPA said you cannot build a structure because of water, and that's why we're here for. So again, I thank you all, permitting agency for your patience and understanding in coming together to help one another. This time, is there anyone else wish to recognize Vice President Dickey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are two issues that I would like to bring to the attention of the acting secretary and the secretary of DPW is here. BCQ is not here. The issue of beachfront public lands, for example, like the beach side of some of these hotels. I understand that DPL cannot collect rent until such time that there is legislation to be done. And also the right of ways. I've seen commercial buildings, apartments using public land for parking. And I understand also that they need of a change in the right of way laws in order for people to collect funds from these public lands. So I recommend that the acting secretary and secretary of DPW and the ECQ, Mr. Sommer, please get in touch if any specific recommendation that can be done, because DPW is losing money in terms of collection of public lands in these areas. And also, I think acting secretary were here, if I'm not mistaken, when there was a proposed legislation on land leases with public land, and we invited the LNR, there's, I know the ECQ was here, I know the secretary of DPW was here, and the attorney general's office. And the issue that the attorney general said to us, present, is that the laws that were created with the legislature in terms of the parks and recreation, which authorize the DLNR to collect fees, those laws are unconstitutional, because only public land can collect fees from public lands. However, he said that DPL and the LNR can come to an agreement, and perhaps DPL can contract the LNR to clean all the parks and recreation areas. And I wonder if that ever happened, and if not, I'd like the secretary to look into it and affirm that, so that the NMDs will not continue to lose funds, and also the beachfront and the right of ways. If we can correct that by law, I'm pretty sure the legislature will be happy to do that. So I have the other question is, NPLT continues to say to DPO, where's the $1 million from Marianas Resort? That issue. And DPO is saying that it's not land, so it doesn't belong with NPOT. In that case, who is the $1 million? Is it in the bank, or did DPO use it as part of the administrative cost? Mr. Acting Secretary?
Thank you very much for that beautiful, awesome questions, Senator. And if I may, one time I was at Commerce and I was asking my directors who's regulating the illegal taxi cabs, and they said, not us. And I said, but it's illegal. They said, no, we only regulate legals. So the illegal taxi cabs up to today are being illegal. Is regulating it. So unfortunately to me, coming from this beautiful body, joining the departments, I was able to see a lot of things that you're asking, that this body is asking. Unfortunately to me, because now I have no excuse, I have to answer all of these questions. And so one, with respect to the beachfront, I did review a recommended bill from the legislature with respect to this issue, and supposedly that issue is almost like the taxi cabs. Well, I don't authorize it because I'm not authorized to authorize the high water mark area, therefore I can't collect it. So hopefully the bill would solve it. With respect to right-of-ways and business parkings, we do handle TOAs in our lease department, RED division, real estate division. Who collects the funds? I know that right-of-ways now is with our DPW, and we have DPL who can collect funds. We'll look into those things and clarify more on those. With respect to the Parks and Recs question on Marpi area, yes, I remember vividly back then the discussion with the panels that were in. And I don't know where that is now, but I sure would like to look into it to find out whatever transpired with that, who's given authorization and or the MOA if it's completed. I can answer them later. As far as the MPOT funds and the $1 million, as you all know, the MPOT keeps writing me letters, and they post it in the paper before I even respond. But they're in the papers. The $1 million is still there. We still have the $1 million in our bank account. There were Eagi opinions on that $1 million where it's supposed to go. So as of now, it's still untouched. It's still there. And so that answers that. With respect to any further details on NPOT, I've also reviewed NPOT based on coming from this body and joining the agency, reviewed the budgets and operations and processes of public lands. And I'm still going through trying to find ways to clarify, because hope I don't get hurt. I don't hurt myself here, but there seem to be some processes that are not very clear, and I'm clarifying those processes so that I can report to this body. Where's our money? What's our money? When I say clarification of the process, for example, we have in 15-2 with respect to reservation of funds of the budget year. And I believe the department has been transmitting those things, the reports on their funding needs, and there may be a different of interpretation on their part, thinking and believing that maybe the budgets have been pre-approved or approved already, and they're missing along the way based on whatever stopovers they had before reaching the legislature. So I'm more than willing to give you all the details on that budget, but as far as that $1 million, it's still in the bank. As a matter of fact, I responded back to MPOT, to the chairman already on their last request last month. They gave me a deadline last month that I must answer it, and I returned some money back to them, but not the $1 million. I'm still holding it, and I'm not abusing it.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Secretary. I'm looking at the public auditor's report, and all the recommendations or the corrective actions were resolved, but there's one here that the public auditor reminds DPL, which is the collection of public land leases that it will not in the future continue to be behind in its collection with land leases. Do we have any land leases that are behind at this time?
Currently, based on the report from the compliance, we have the real estate division, we have the compliance division who handles all the compliance with respect to making sure all land leases are paid. Currently, no one is behind with the exception of a few with respect to annual reports that he needs to submit. But as far as land leases, everybody's up to date. I believe there may be one that is in the gray area for the month of June, and I will follow up on that for the land lease payment.
Okay, thanks, Secretary. One last question. We were in order for your confirmation hearing and also public hearings. And I bumped into some people in Aurora, and they were mentioning to me that they wanted to do some renovations with their houses, but there's no quarry. There's no quarry to buy sand and aggregate, so they're stuck down there. What's your understanding about quarries in Aurora? Do we still don't have quarries, or because in the process of approving one, or still no resolution to that?
Chairman, that's a very good question. I had that same question, but I never finished my review on that question. But the last time I heard, somebody was off island somewhere buying a crusher for the quarry. So I'm assuming there must be a quarry. And what's the name? Pali'i Quarry. Whether it's fully operational, I'm not able to report on that unless DPW has some answers. But Deep Public Land handles the TOAs for quarries, and we're not holding anything back. If they're qualified, they will be given. There's no reason to hold back for road.
Okay, thank you, Acting Secretary. And I'm comfortable. I'm confident that with all these concerns which are on you, and you have been encountering this when you were here in the Senate, that you take this seriously and work with the other agencies to improve the communication and the permitting of the public lands, particularly the homesteading program. I don't see this in the way back about issuing of a homesteading program. Once they issued the programs, you don't have to go to Fish and Wildlife and all of these things. DPO just took it on itself to just clear everything that is designated for homesteading programs. So you issue your homestead, you're cleared from all the permitting agencies. But now it seems like we're having issues with the other agencies. So but I'm confident that you will take the lead in ensuring that the proposed homesteads program are taken care of in terms of clearing all the required permits, so that the recipients will not spend time running around trying to have their homestead cleared with Fish and Wildlife, the historic preservation, and things like that. So please take notes and help us, especially help us help our people, especially your office that is in charge wholly with the public lands. And when there's a legislation that is on the Senate, something to do with quarries, and you have submitted your recommendations, but I would like to, when the committee is going to discuss this, I would like to invite you so you can give us more details on this legislation. And I have a question, Mr. Palacios, on this CDBGDR. I understand that there's an applicant that is going to apply to build on the lot belongs to her. However, this lot, there was a house that was built, I guess, just to pass the homesteading program. This house, it's a small house, but this house has a bathroom. And I went over there just to see, and there's nothing there but these three walls, small bathroom, three walls. Everything is on the ground. And the applicant was told that that's not going to be a new construction. It's going to be a house renovation. But how can a house renovation, how can that be classified as under house renovation when only three walls like this? And you can see, you can see that it's a bathroom. Is that true? It's will be considered as renovation, not a new house construction?
Yeah, Senator, keep to that. Thank you for for homestead lots where there are existing structures and the homesteader used to live there, and then the house was destroyed by the typhoon. Because the house was occupied, it's gonna be under like renovation, but under HUD it's called reconstruction. And reconstruction is the same as a new construction. It's just that for new construction, the borrower was not living in that specific area or property. But in this case, what you visited, it was occupied, but it's the term is reconstruction, but it's under the renovation program. And it's basically the same as a new construction. They're gonna start from scratch. They're gonna demolish that existing structure and then build a new home for that family, but as a reconstruction program.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, because the individual probably understands a renovation, but she was told renovation. The word reconstruction never was related to her. It's renovation, and she understands that for renovation that you're gonna just do some what's need to make it livable, but reconstruction is different. So and we talked about infrastructure like for the homesteading program, and I wonder, Mr. Acting Secretary, with this new homesteading program that are being proposed with no water lines, can you find out whether the ARPA funds can be used to work with CUC so that these homesteading lots can have access to at least water at this time when they got their homestead, or when they submit their applications to an MHC, that at least when they got their loans, that water is already there to be connected, because Mr. Palacio said that is not covered with the home loan, with infrastructure, because of the Fair Housing Act. So can you find out if the governor can make some funds available for certain homesteads that have that need that infrastructure, at least the water? This is the most important thing.
Senator, are you referring to a homestead project for water infrastructure access to the entire homestead?
Yes.
Okay, so earlier this year, our former Secretary Marian, before leaving public lands, she wrote to the governor, and in her writing to the governor, she gave our governor, Lieutenant Governor, the infrastructure need for public lands in order to accommodate all the homesteads. So she sent that letter out back in March 2021. And of course, our former secretary became a head of this new IRP office, which handles the ARPA funds. And as I stated earlier, about 2 days ago, I was met by the former secretary to inform me that the governor has authorized up to about $88 million to be used by DPL, and that IRP, which is under the former secretary, will prioritize and push these things out immediately, which is the funding for the water lines and sewer lines to all homestead projects that are listed in her submission to the governor, which included the Ascono, included Tinian, and also Rhoda. And so now in our meeting, we are scheduled to have further meetings with CUC because Mr. Mario Iglesias, as we all know, was former with EDA, and now he is working with her. He's the engineer now, he's a civil engineer, I think. We are to meet to make sure we put these plans into action, which is primarily, it does not cover power, but they will cover all the water lines or sewer lines. And I can make a better document and submit to you to show you the breakdown of the infrastructure improvement. We also have included in here the portion of Cagman Homestead, I believe phase 4 or Cagman 4 area, that also needs about 400,000 or almost $500,000 worth of infrastructure for water. So to answer your question, yes, I'm very happy to report to this body, to you, Senator JQ, that the governor has pre-approved an immediate urgency on the IRP office to push out these $80 million worth of infrastructure project for all the homesteads that are currently under public lands. And we are reviewing to include what we need to do for Bogdan as well.
This is Mr. Secretary. I strongly suggest that the other permitting agencies are in place also so that they can just approve that one time and have all the homesteading programs that are designated to have at least water and sewer, if not only water, be done immediately. Because Mr. Palacios wants to roll out the millions of dollars in CDBG, and we would like our eligible people to have access to those funds.
Senator, one clarification. As we are pushing these things out, again, the meeting between DPL, CUC, IRP, and all the other regulatory agencies is very urgent as far as planning, because, for example, this bird breeding season, we cannot do any form of clearing. So that's why now it's a downtime for us. October 1st, while October 1st will be the kickoff day for the boys to go in and do whatever clearing, hopefully all goes well. The planning is happening already with respect to making sure all the logistics open. Of course, it's all theoretical, and I know that everybody has their calendars and what $500 million they got to work with. But DPL has 80 million, and we're hoping that we're clear all these things out before October. Otherwise, we can't do anything again to March next year to July. So there's those periods in the environmental regulations, and so we have to try our best to plan ahead. And thank you for encouraging us and motivating us to get it done.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Secretary. And I think you should be more forceful to the other permitting agencies because you have windows that you can work within and windows that you have to put your brakes on. So thank you very much. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Vice President. Vice Chairman Cook.
Thank you again, Mr. President, and I promise this is my last. And this is just to make aware the Acting Secretary that the committee on fiscal there will be delivering their report, and we'd like to sit down with you and work on the some of that restricted account that DPL have that may be used for infrastructure development that is not qualified under this grant. So I just want to let you know that Acting Secretary and give us all the necessary information to ensure that that will be in the budget package. And this is it. Mr. Chairman, and I just want to thank you for all the permitting agency for showing up, and we are sincerely hopeful that we can come together and expedite all this opportunity for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice. Now I would like to dismiss the permitting agency and just the appointee. But this time I would like to go for a 5 minutes recess.
Oh, yeah.
We're back to our public hearing from recess. At this time, we'd like to recognize Floor Leader of the Senate, Senator Vinicius.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Acting Secretary, for answering all the questions from the other members. I didn't have any questions for the permitting agency, so I wanted to kind of reserve my time to just focus on just some questions and statements from myself to you. But I want to start with, and I'll be fast, it's most lunch. I want to start just with the mission statement of the mission. The mission of DPL as trustees for public lands in the Commonwealth is to incorporate our strategic land use plan into effective management, use, disposition, and development of public lands to promote cultural and economic growth for the benefits of our present and future generations of the Commonwealth. And I really appreciate that mission because it's in harmony with Article 10, right? Section 5 of my Constitution on the public lands. I acknowledge that the mission continues, and there are more factors that keeps the mission moving. There are factors such as the evolving population, our economic state, land leases, federal mandates, environmental impacts, the military, natural disasters, industry challenges and opportunities, availability of lands, and there are many more factors that are all directly linked to the use of public lands. So I think that it's vital that striking the balance and satisfying the mission and considering all the factors is a great challenge. And we all have to do our part, right, in society to uphold the mission, which benefits all the people of Northern Ranas descent. So I just wanted to kind of state that because it's very important, like our Vice President said, you know, the public land is one of the, or is the most important departments, you know, in our government, in our Commonwealth. But I have a question. How many current residential and agricultural homestead applications are pending? Just in the number, or ballpark figure.
For the agricultural, I can get back to you with that. As far as residentials, we have about, are you talking about the number of applications that we have?
Yeah, and the total applications since the program.
I don't have that number with me right now, but I know it's in the thousands.
Okay, so, and then we have 340 plus now that are as GONO, the plots that are ready to roll out. And then any other area that's ready for residential in here in Sagman? Is the Asgono the only one right now?
We have Asgono, and I think we have some that are in Cagman for that need support. I'm not sure if they're really in there, but we have Asgono as the only one right now for Sagman. We have other proposed areas for expansion, but they're not surveyed yet.
Okay. I asked that because I'm alluding to the next. The actual life expectancy of our homestead program. And I think we should all look into it, not only DPL, the legislature, everyone should look into how long will this program sustain itself, right? When will, because the, you know, Article 10 of our CNMI Constitution, Section 5 says, you know, it starts, the corporation shall make available some portion of public lands for a homestead program. A person is not eligible for more than one agricultural or one village homestead. It goes on and on and on, but it never says when it's going to stop or upon availability of properties. And so one day, minus today, we're going to have, you know, based on our population, you know, like we're going to get census data, we're going to run out, you know, maybe 50 years from now or 60 years from now. So I think, you know, we should really proactively look into the expectancies or the life expectancy of the program and see what kind of future changes we may need. I mean, it may lead to even an initiative, right, that to really restate the you know, the actual fundamental policies of DPL. But what are your thoughts on the sustainability of the homestead program in general? Like when we come to that point in time where we're going to exhaust all the properties. What are your thoughts? And then have you ever pondered that?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I've had this discussion with our divisions, and one, realistically, there is a limited land space. There's limited land on Saipan, there's limited land on Tinian, especially only 1/3 of Tinian, and there's also limited land on Rora because of all those federal conservation areas that have is occurring on Rora. And so land space is limited. This will not go forever. As a matter of fact, I was reading into the Supreme Court decision or opinions and the AG. They seem to believe that the DPL or public land is finite and it should end soon with respect to homestead. But right now on Saipan, if I may, there's no way we can accommodate all those applicants. And as alluded to by the senators of this body on Tinian, we are currently reviewing issue. Of course, there's a moratorium on Saipan, but we are currently reviewing providing moratoriums for the islands as well to have a look at the land inventory and be able to communicate and dialogue with the senator or district leaders as well to inform them accordingly before we go public. I'm saying this before we go public because I know that some people believe that I am the Secretary of Public Lands and I should just say it. But as this body has been alluding to, I believe we need to give the people some information update that they were aware of, that we are not unilaterally stopping homestead. We're saying there's really no more space. If there's any space on Saipan, aside from Ascono, the other area is that I can think of is up in Marpi area. But then we have a lot of UXOs, unexploded ordnance as well, that we're we're not clearing them as fast as we could. So your question, would this go forever? The answer is no. Is it within the near future? I believe so. Maybe I'm not going to pick a year, but there's really just no more area for us to continue to satisfy all these applicants. And the only other way I think that this body has explored before is having some turnkey projects. And I know that people, when we had the commerce partnership with the other departments in creating these light tech programs for these apartment buildings, supposedly to help our residents with homes, whatever. And I think the corporate director, Jesse of NMHC, was saying our people are not interested in living in hotels or living in apartments. But I think that that's the only other way is to build up since we have no more lands and maybe explore that more. Thank you.
Thank you. That's where I know that conversation has happened before with that. So it's good. I just wanted to bring that up so that we, start that conversation, continue that conversation of the life expectancy of the homestead program, since it's very, our society here in the cinema, everyone is looking forward to a homestead lot. It's in the talks everywhere you go in parties or wherever, even at work. It's something that our general population have been looking forward to and continue to look forward to. And I'm really appreciative of the 2020 annual report and its contents, very detailed. So, and there's in here, the portion I was looking at is there's 82 public land leases. And I'm going to relate that to the previous questions that I had, the 82 public land leases. The total area of these public land leases are significant. It's a big area. So maybe that's one way we can kind of look at the sustainability of the program is when these public land leases mature and expire. Maybe there's a way we can look at it. They're not going to continue to use it, then we can turn it into additional plots in the future, right? Because we still have long ways to go. I think there's only 5 in the list that are already mature. I'm not sure what happened to them, but they're still listed on there. So that's one way we can plan ahead and see. And it's interesting. Maybe you can get back to us too on all these public land leases. Are all the properties being like actively utilized or used, or are they just still under the current term of the lease, but it's not being utilized? So maybe that's something you can look into and see the status of those properties. If it's currently being used like for hotels and stuff, that's fine. But we're interested to know how many of those public land leases that are on long-term land leases not being actively utilized for anything at all. It's just a term and it's just a piece of property that has somebody's name on it for a long-term land lease, to see what we can do with that. The tourist arrivals, we're gonna try for that bubble. We've got approved for the tourist bubble from Korea, and then the good news from I think Hong Kong. Hong Kong is or we've got the green light to accept passengers from Hong Kong. Has the department already been like? Have you made plans already for the opening of the tour sites that sit on public land? Because I think BPL has locked up like Grotto and all that stuff. So those are in the works for when the bubble come in. I mean, have you already spoke to your staff on, okay, we got to get ready. We got to start opening up these areas.
At the moment, Senator Eagi, I am not able to answer you on that because I'm not sure currently whether I'm responsible for those directly or not, whether it has been assigned to MVA or the others, as mentioned by Senator Kuriga, that MOU discussion that I wanted to look into to verify whether what happened or what transpired with that MOU and who takes care of all those tourist sites. So I'm not very clear yet on that. Thank you.
Okay, so that's good. That's good because we're gonna have to prepare ourselves. Whether whoever it's under, and who have to prepare ourselves for, and there may be different rules now and regulations when the bubble comes in because we don't know how they're gonna operate. They're all gonna go to one place at one time, and then open and closure of these areas will happen. I've had several calls on this particular situation, and it's about the any unallowed dwellings on public lands like beach dwellings. And the particular dwelling I'm talking about is on Beach Road, and I empathize with the individual. But what are the regulations on that? And we just wanted to know that so that we don't. It doesn't. There's no. It doesn't happen. And we see a lot of these tents on the beach. But what is the regulation on that, and what has BPO done for that situation?
On that particular situation, I've asked the directors on that on our involvement, and from what I was informed, although I do not have any official, but from what I was informed, either DLNR has taken control of that issue. Because it's on their assigned site. Now, as far as me, I've asked the same question to our directors, and I'm still exploring to make sure I understand our regulations correctly. But sans looking at the details on the regulation, if I may be bold to go into my personal view, I believe a public land is a public land for anybody's access to access it, provided, of course, that our compliance division is able to have engaged whomever is on public land to make sure there is no violation, whether you're there leasing or you're there for temporary occupancy. And if you're not there through a lease or an occupancy that's authorized by public lands, that we have what would be the process. If you're sitting down on a public land along the road, what do I do with you? Do I allow you to continue to stay there without building permanent infrastructure, without building a fence, or all of a sudden having animals and livestock? Or do I allow you to be there provided you provide a beautiful garden on our public land and you take care of it without encroaching beyond? That part I'm not clear yet where our regulation is on that, but I'm very interested to find out where we are on regulation on that very good question. Not the current issue that we find on the beach, but if there's somebody who is on a public land, do I right away evict them? Do I penalize them? Or do I work with them provided nothing else happens? And I'm saying this not because it's just out of my imagination. I've been reading some federal guidelines as well in some states on how to deal with people who are encroaching and staying on public land because they're hunting or something else. And how do we treat them? So I'm interested as well to make sure we have processes to handle situations so that they do not get out of hand. And you're very right, that particular issue now on the beach, I hope they handle it accordingly because at the end of the day, depending on what the outcome is, everybody might all of a sudden be staying on the beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Secretary. And I'm thankful that the Vice President asked about the land use plan. And I think with everything that we're going through, especially the pandemic, I think we're going to be needing or forced to make some adjustments to the land use plan. Even the Garapan revitalization plan and all the other proposals and plans that our entire government has worked on pre-COVID. I think it's going to be time soon, and maybe it's time now to kind of readjust that plan because of what the pandemic has done. It's changed how we live. It's changed the normal. So I think we have to kind of really sit down and rethink that and look at all the parts in the land use plan and the moving parts and see how we can kind of craft it to what we're facing today. So that's just a recommendation that we kind of look into that. And with that, I have nothing else. And I'm sure we'll have more conversations right now, between DPL and the legislature as we move along. But go ahead.
I just wanted to answer for clarification. We have the active divisions within our department that engages the use of public land would be real estate for leasing and or temporary occupancies for grazers or parking lot space or beach concessions and so on. And then we have the homestead division. Those are the two active divisions that engages the use of public land authorizations. And I wanted to clarify that before any of them moves forward, we have a planning division, which is under Ms. Pat Rosa, and she did a great job. And her main role is to totally understand these two books here on the land use plan, the map, and the directives. And before any homestead is approved or any real estate is being discussed, she has to go through this, and from her clearance, she will provide the clearance to homestead and or the real estate or the rent division or ED. And so I just want to clarify that it goes through that process of clearing first for the land use plan. What does the land use plan say about a particular area if we're going to develop it?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have no more questions.
Thank you, Pro Leader. Sabah? Anyone else?
No.
Thank you. So our question and concern is now closed from this committee. At this time, I'd like to ask Jolene to disclose letters that were submitted.
Chairman, members of the Senate Eagi Committee, Mr. Gizomar, and members of the general public, in addition to the oral testimonies received today on the executive appointment of Mr. Eagi Gizomar to serve as the Secretary of the Department of Public Lands, please be advised of the additional written testimonies officially received in support of the appointee. Marianne Concepcion Delgado, personal testimony, Marco Balaban, personal testimony. Furthermore, please be advised of one written testimony officially received in opposition of the appointee from Raymond B. Kidaba, personal testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jolene. At this time, all public comments are taken. Let the record reflect that there are also written and also one not and will be included in the Senate Standing Committee recommendation report, along with all testimonies presented this morning, to be forwarded before the full Senate members in consideration for confirmation or rejection. And before we adjourn, I would like to extend on behalf of the members of this standing committee our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Governor Torres and Lieutenant Governor Palacios' representative, Mr. Kevin Bautista, along with Annie Shai, the appointee, Mr. Sixtuke Digizumor, and most especially the members of the general public for your participation and involvement during this important public hearing process. And we certainly hope that we continue this dialogue of communication between us, the elected officials, and the public to keep you abreast and informed of our current and future Senate hearings ahead that relates to public best interest. This concludes this public hearing. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Any second? There's a motion for adjournment and was seconded. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. This public hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.